Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood for YouTube, and I'm here to do a part 2 of a video by request. This is the People of Collinsport part 2, requested by Donald Schmidt. So, I did forget to mention Joe Haskell and Mrs. Johnson and Harry Johnson. So, I'll talk about them here. Now, Joe Haskell was a Collinsport native. Um, and Joe, how did Joe feel about the Collins family? Well, we know how he felt about Carolyn, um, which we did know how he felt about the Collins family in general, too. Joe was head over heels in love with Carolyn. He wanted to marry her. And it's amazing that Joe Haskell is one of those characters you go, he's really likable, he's really nice, but they just never have him marry Carolyn. Joe's one of those characters you want to see something good happen for him, but nope, they. You might say, well, do they kill off Joe Haskell? Actually, no. They the end of Joe is they send him to Wincliffe and you never hear of him again. Uh, that sucks. That's not good. Poor Joe. So, how did Joe Haskell feel about the Collins family? I think he really, really liked the Collins family a lot. And he really, really loved Carolyn. But here's somebody who was chosen by Elizabeth to sort of marry her daughter. Now, I'm not saying Elizabeth went out and said, hey, you date my daughter. No. I think Carolyn chose to date Joe, but I think the fact the years of pushing for a marriage were secretly straining their relationship. And Carolyn knew. Carolyn knew she was not going to marry Joe. You know what I mean? I think you could sort of sense that. I don't think, as much as I want to put a lot of that on Bark Devlin, I can't. I do think a lot of it was, here's Carolyn and Joe, who are a couple, and really, Carolyn wants to find out more than anybody, even Burke, why her mother has never left the grounds, why her father disappeared. And she wants to confront her father for leaving this woman and leaving her like that. And you might say, what's that have to do with Joe? Plenty, because Joe Haskell is sort of the unfortunate person who dates Carolyn, who does love her and care for her, and really does not get the opportunity to marry Carolyn because of Elizabeth's past and Carolyn's father, who is just a piece of shit. Oh my god. Did he guys too? Paul Stoddard. So, how did Joe feel? Joe, I honestly think Joe, for all his nice guy attitude and doing everything he could, when Joe got drunk and just told off Elizabeth, really, I just think he wanted to do that to he wanted to do that for a long time, but he just, and I'm not saying Joe was afraid to do that to Elizabeth. I don't honestly ever think Joe felt that was his place to do that. To sort of, look, Carolyn, Elizabeth's issues, sorry, Elizabeth's issues and past is her business. So that's something I think Joe felt a lot of. He respected people's privacy. He wasn't somebody who was going to go up to you and go, "Oh, hey, tell me," or "I'll yell at you." No, he wasn't Burke Devlin. He wasn't a jerk. But I think Joe is just somebody who's very, very respectful to people in general. And that's how he sort of feels. He was raised to be respectful, kind, and caring. And so, therefore, he is, but to a fault, too. He doesn't push hard enough. Other than he does push Carolyn because he knows, hey, Carolyn's old enough to make her own decision. It's Joe isn't, you know, he does want to marry Carolyn, but he's not banking he's not banking on Elizabeth for Carolyn to marry him is what I'll say. He's not going, "Oh, Elizabeth will make Carolyn." No, he's wanting Carolyn to make that decision. And that's something I'll applaud that character for because it's a very great character trait for Joe Haskell to have. Again, I think he really cared about the Collins family and Carolyn, and to show that, hey, I could be a friend, he did forgive Carolyn. And it wasn't easy for him to forgive Carolyn or Burke. So for coming in between them. But I don't think, again, that was all Burke Devlin's fault. I just think a lot of things involving Elizabeth really made that decision. So Joe did care did care for the Collins family, and he really, really loved Carolyn a lot. He loved, and eventually he found new love in Maggie Evans. I wish they would have at least let Joe and Maggie married. They actually were a great couple. I liked that. So now there is. Um, I also forgot Matthew Morgan a bit. So Matthew Morgan was a Collinsport native, and he worked for the Collins family. He was sort of the last person, well, not sort of, he was the last sort of servant standing after the Paul Stoddard disappearance, after Paul just up and left Collinwood, which, Paul did leave. Um, so she, Elizabeth has Matthew clean up blood, uh, burn the carpet that Paul Stoddard's blood was on. And yes, Paul is alive after this. Paul's body doesn't get burned, unfortunately. But Matthew is one word: loyal, loyal, loyal. And yeah, I'll say that 3 times because this dude would kill for Elizabeth, and really did. I mean, that's sort of what Bill Malloy's death is over. He feels that Bill's not being loyal, that Bill's doing the wrong thing. Um, he did, and you might say, well, it was because Roger. It didn't matter to Bill, it didn't matter to Matthew. If he felt it was going to endanger Elizabeth in any way, shape, form, Matthew would kill for Elizabeth. Matthew Morgan would kill for Elizabeth, and that's not an exaggeration. That's not an overstatement. Matthew Morgan would kill for Elizabeth. So, how did Matthew Morgan feel about the Collins family? He tolerated the Collins family for Elizabeth, is what I'll say, because he would, again, he loved her, but he tolerated the family, is what I'll say, because he was really. I mean, he would talk nice to to Carolyn, but he would sort of get annoyed with David, and he, again, I think he just tolerated the family, but he loved Elizabeth. He really did. He would kill for her. And that leads me to Mrs. Johnson. No, she's not the last person. I'll get to Harry Johnson too. Mrs. Johnson was a Collinsport native. She works for Bill Malloy as his, servant, cook, whatever you want to say, until Bill Malloy's death. And she is so upset at the Collins family. Here is somebody who despised the Collins family more than Burke Devlin himself, if possible. If that woman could get away with taking a flamethrower to Collinwood and everyone in it, I would not put that past her, because she hated them for murdering, not just, she just didn't look at them responsible for Bill Malloy's death. She hated the fact that Bill Malloy slaved over that family, that Bill Malloy worked to the bone for that family. She could not, she felt they did that to him, and she could not stand it and stand them for doing that. I'm not saying she's wrong necessarily. She does have, Mrs. Johnson does have great points, because, yeah, the Collins family will work you hard. They're their largest fishing fleet in the East Coast from a fictional standpoint. You don't get that way by accident. So, Mrs. Johnson, when Bill dies, she goes to the sheriff. Hey, Bill Malloy was murdered. No one who tells me what they want for breakfast the next morning, is going to commit suicide. Then the conversation, Burke Devlin recruits Mrs. Johnson to be a spy, to somehow get into Collinwood, and she does because Carolyn wants Burke bad. So Mrs. Johnson, Collinsport's greatest spy ever, gets into Collinwood, and she is very direct to the Collins family. Again, she can't stand them. She can't stand what they did to Bill, or what she believes one of them is the murderer. One of the Collins family members is the murderer. It's not one of the family members, but somebody at Collinwood did murder Bill Malloy, and it was Matthew Morgan. Oh, goodness. So again, how did she feel about them? She hated them. And, after Bill Malloy's death sort of gets solved, does get solved, did she still hate them? Well, she still spied on them, because she spied on them during the Phoenix Circuit. I just don't ever really think Mrs. Johnson cared for the Collins family. And that leads me to her son, Collinsport native Harry Johnson. Yes, Donald Schmidt. Harry was from Collinsport because now people might say, well, where was Harry Johnson all this time? In prison, actually. um, Harry Johnson comes from prison. He has a criminal record, not near as long as Willie Loomis's. Maybe Harry Johnson could have worked for Willie in an alternate reality, or Jason even. Oh goodness! But so Harry Johnson gets out of prison. He's on. They behave. So he goes back home to Collinsport. He calls his mother. She goes, I'm gonna clear it with Elizabeth for you to live at Collinwood. And he does. He lives at Collinwood. How did he feel? Well, here's a guy who gets put under a spell by Nicholas, who gets who gets threatened and intimidated by Barnabas, and Barnabas did that to a lot of people. How did I was I can't really. Harry Johnson had to be the most miserable character because literally all they did was make him be everybody's bitch. That's a nice way for it. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. God. Um. So how did Harry Johnson feel? Again, I just think he felt miserable. I don't think he hated anybody. I don't think he felt one way or the other about any one person of the Collins members. He just he felt miserable. He had to be everybody like made him do stuff, and it's just like, man, that dude could not catch a break. The attorneys, I think, were from Bangor. They weren't from Collinsport. So, and that is part 2 of my videos. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I want to give a huge thank you and shout out to Donald Schmidt. Listen, if you guys have any requests, you guys know you can hit me up on Twitter at ConwoodOf for Dark Shadows videos. I will be doing another Dark Shadows video next week. I'm actually going to do the read-alongs next week, so that'll be fun. But if you have a Dark Shadows video request, hit me up on Facebook, Joel T. Sains, Twitter at ConwoodOf, and I'm on the Instagram now. Oh my God, why? Resident _of _Collinwood. What do you do? Social media is insanity, man. What do you do? It's just craziness. You guys have a great night. Sorry for the late video. And again, I just want to thank everybody who follows me on Twitter, subscribes. Thank you very much for the support. I appreciate it 1,000 times over. Thank you so much. All of you. You guys are just so awesome. And I can't thank you all enough. So, thank you again, and I'll see you on the next video.